Boy, howdy, hermano. How's it hanging? The name is Stench, on account of the fact that I make a real stinky mess with my pistoles. Now hear me out, I know what you're thinking. What is good old Stench here doing on a backwater planet like this? Well, friends, the organization in all their wisdom want this planet under their growing empire. So they sent old Stench in preemptively to cripple the local government. What's that? You don't think I could do it all by myself, eh? How about a little demonstration on some of the local wildlife? Need I say more? I didn't think so. Well, the conquering and decimation of this planet isn't going to happen on its own, though, so it's time that we get a move on. I traveled for many hours, and by the time the sun began to set, I stopped in at an abandoned city for a little bit of fun. I thought it could be a good way to find some of the lowest forms of hospitality the planet has to offer. This place was absolutely crawling with shitty, stinky bandits around every corner. I thought it might be a good idea before moving on to the real threats of the planet to have a little bit of target practice. As a summer night's breeze dawned upon the ruins of this fair place, I spent many an hour having some good quality time with the locals. Oh my, what have we here? Such a delectable little treat for the nostrils, eh? Oh, perhaps this planet is good for something, don't mind if I do. After a quick bump, I was feeling a little bit peckish. Luckily, these folks had some nice meals. It's just a shame that my taste buds are eviscerated from all the implants and serums. Nevertheless, throughout the night, my blood-lusting rampage would continue as I went building to building, room to room, looking for anyone and everyone that I could kill. I was also attempting to maybe spot a few weapons or items that I thought could be fun to use against the local leadership, but I came up empty-handed. By morning, a caravan of these bandits had returned back to this city to find most of their friends and family completely slaughtered, by my hands of course. One of these silly little fellas tried to throw some toxic gas at me. Is that, I'm getting hints of cinnamon, apricot perhaps, apple even maybe? No, actually, I think that might be arsenic. Ooh. Ah, there you are. I think we could use a little bit of a palate cleanser, if you will. Unfortunately, I had killed all of the bandits, so I ran out of people to slaughter, and I used up all of their drugs, so I guess it's time for us to get a move on to our main goal. It would seem to me that this planet, as many in this galaxy, are still controlled by the remnants of the once great empire now shattered. Ah, how I remember when it used to be in its infancy. They're just as rude and aggressive now as they always were. What if I were coming here to try to be their friend and they're firing their mortars at me? Well, it's a good thing I'm not here for any diplomacy. I'm only here to reap souls. God, I love my job. First, I decided to start with their defenses, some of their mini turrets and their uranium slug turrets, which were completely inaccurate, poor fools. Still using the old models from centuries ago, I see. Realistically, I'm doing you a favor by getting rid of them. Naturally, their next step after I took out their defenses was to try to bum rush me and fire a doomsday rocket at me, which had very little effect. As one might imagine, I was quite literally running circles around them, shooting them in the head and the pancreas, and just having a good time all around. Speaking of which, I decided to give them the real runaround. No, quite literally, I began running circles around this entire mountain that contained their base, while they were quite confused and struggling to keep up, I must say. I thought it might be a fun idea to run inside their base and hide and wait for them, but I came upon a very large stash of weapons. They actually managed to pin me inside and gather up at the door to begin firing at me. Of course, as one could imagine, this didn't exactly work out in their favor. I was cutting through them like a red, smoldering hot knife through butter. The scent of black powder and entrails was hot in my nostrils, only to be disguised by all of the death acidifiers going off. After an hour or so, these poor fools decided that it would be in their best interest for them to flee, but as they were attempting to leave the area, I'm afraid that I would have to intervene just a little bit. Now, look, little fella, I'm gonna level with you. Some of you can be part of the labor camps once we completely take over, but you're not one of those people. Sorry. Now, with all its inhabitants gone, we would return back to the base to finish off what few defenses they actually had remaining. Once that was taken care of, we would finally claim this damned place in the name of Void. It had been completely decimated. Not to worry though, my friends, soon your entire planet shall follow. Just be patient with me, okay? As we started looking through the remains of this little settlement, we ended up finding something of an ancient ship of sorts, though I have a feeling it's not operational, otherwise they probably would have gathered up in here and ran away from me like the cowards they are. Although that being said, it would seem they had some useful items aboard that they hadn't used. An orbital beam targeter, don't mind if I do. And a bombardment targeter? Oh, it must be my birthday. I also found a nice cozy little bed with my name on it, quite literally. I'm sure that cozy little cot would feel quite nice on my back if I had any feeling, but it's just a shame I have no use for sleep. Quite literally, I don't sleep at all. However, I do have to keep the biological war machine that is my body fueled, and thus I am feeling a little hungry at the moment, it seems. Homegrown rice and muffalo steaks. Wash it all down with a little bit of psychite tea. Sorry about that, darling, but something tells me you won't be needing it anymore, and I could really use a sip. Now then, back to more important matters. As you can see, this gun stockpile is absolutely ginormous, and even though the base is destroyed, what's going to prevent them from coming back and taking all their weapons and rebuilding? Funny you should ask, because I am. Yeah, I think that'll do it. There's still a few guns left, but those will burn up with a little bit of time, I'm sure. It's a shame we don't have any weenies or squirrel bits or anything to roast on the fire. Oh well. Well, it looks like my work here is done. Time to move on to the next. But first, a little taste of go juice. Since it wasn't too far off, I decided to stop in at yet another local raider, bandit, and/or pirate camp, whatever they call themselves on this planet. It appeared to be a bunch of filthy, dirty swine, quite literally once more, as these were a bunch of ugly pig pirates. Their hygiene tends to be even worse than that of the Imperials, and that is truly saying something. This appears to be something of a mining operation for them. Perhaps they have something interesting for us. Something tells me, though, that they're not exactly excited to see me. Luckily, these hog-brained bastards can't aim for shit. As the somber, icy cold rain poured down upon all of our heads, I was more than ready to rock the socks of these piggies. I started with their mortar operators since they tried to attack me first and foremost. All's fair in war and, well, more war. I thought it could be a fun idea, though, if I were to take one of their mortars and use it against them. But then I realized that mortars weren't exactly my specialty either. At one point, a large group of them had actually came all around me, started lighting me on fire, beating me with swords, clubs, knives, and anything and everything in between, shooting me as much as humanly possible. Strangely enough, with their teamwork and combined efforts, they actually injured me enough that I decided to try and make a break for it for at least a hot moment. I ran away into the forest to sit alone for a moment and ponder on my situation. That's when I realized that the bastards had actually destroyed my suit. I suppose it was inevitable with how much damage the Imperials had done to my clothing already. Nonetheless, I was quite upset about it. It wouldn't take me very long at all, though, to completely heal from all of the wounds that they had inflicted on me, and I was right as rain. But they had severely pissed me off, and I was done playing games with them. Time for something a bit more destructive. Once the heavens were done shooting down a burning light that had the heat of 1,000,000 suns upon them, they started running away, as they should. Of course, though, not all of them would be so lucky. Some of them would end up meeting their end at the end of my blade. Now then, with that over with and the majority of them slaughtered, let's have a look-see at the fruit of their labor. A large storage depot chocked to the brim with many a mineral such as jade, steel, silver, plasteel, yada yada yada, all of the good stuff, if you know what I'm saying. We would even manage to find some important textiles, such as this hyperweave here, that we would end up using to make ourselves a brand new cloak. A little bit perplexing how they got their filthy little porky hands on it, as the organization has hyperweave plentiful, but these pirates, I'm shocked. Nevertheless, after harvesting some of their dyes, we could give it a much more appropriate color. Ah, now that is much better. Finally looking like a true angel of death. death once more. But our powers are much more ancient than that. Hey, look, some transport pods. You know, I bet they were using these to send their minerals back and forth to their home base. You know, minerals are very heavy. I'm also very heavy. This gives me an idea. Look out, Imperials, up, up, and away, death from above comes to you. Ah, yes, now this is a proper Imperial villa. I'm sure the soldiers here may actually be something of a challenge for us. And no doubt they probably have some very interesting items, weapons, and resources. Ah, yes, a baron of sorts. Now who is this little fancy pants? I look forward to getting up close and personal with you. Oh my, it would seem that they also have nuclear warheads. The organization and myself are all too familiar with these. Perhaps they'll be more of a challenge and a threat than I initially thought. Sure looks like we're about to find out. Well then, I suppose this is a great place to leave you on a cliffhanger, don't you think, friends? Will the v.o.i.d. desperado cowboy, your old buddy Stench, make it out of this one intact? Find out next time. See you later, compadres.